Hola amigos, it's Will here from Will's Custom Figures, coming at you today with a big bad breakdown and an overview of my all-time favourite Pokemon set from the original 151 back to 1996. It is, of course, none other than Eevee. It's Flareon, it's Jolteon, and it is Vaporeon. So please, guys, sit back and relax while I talk you through why and how I made this incredible set of Pokemon sculptures using clay, using hand-painted skills, and nothing 3D printed here, guys, and all of the details in between. So first things first, let's start with Eevee. This Pokemon dates right back to when I first become aware of Pokemon. It was on the original red, blue, yellow games, and oh my god, this jumped out to me. It took me absolutely by storm. I couldn't believe that such a cute and beautiful looking Pokemon, even just a creature, had been made. I'd never seen Pokemon. It was the first thing I'd seen on television as far as the cartoon. I heard rumblings of what it was as a sort of 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, but I'd never actually seen it. And then seeing this on the animated series and getting to then capture one on the game, not understanding that actually, moving nicely on to Flareon, these guys don't evolve like all your other Pokemon. You have to use Thunderstones, Firestones, and things, Water Stones, and get them in different environments and places. Oh man, this game captured my imagination as a 10-year-old. And Flareon looking very cool there. Here is, of course, none other than Jolteon. This is the most recent addition to my Pokemon collection. I think it's 131, 2, 3, and 4, or 133, 4, 5, and 136. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I do remember that Jolteon is a number 135 because I had this guy. I remember finding the Thunderstone and evolving him or her and being just overwhelmed. Now, speaking about overwhelmed, this is probably one of the earliest Pokemon figures that I made. This is Vaporeon, and I actually followed a YouTube tutorial on how to do this. Thank you to whoever made that. It has seen better days. It's probably a little bit too big in scale with all the others, as you can see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down how I made each one individually and get into some of the nitty-gritty details. And here we go, guys, taking pride of place here. Here is the beautiful Eevee, and potentially the best Pokemon figure I've ever made. This Pokemon figure dates back probably 4 or 5 years, if not more. It's moved house with me multiple times, and a nice little nugget of information here. My daughter is actually named after this Pokemon, Eevee. I wanted to get my love, my geekdom, my nerdish side out. And yeah, when we're looking at different names, Eevee came up, and I thought, do you know what? If we're going with Eevee for the name of my daughter, it has to be spelt uniquely, like the Pokemon. And this is a normal type Pokemon for anybody that doesn't know. I absolutely love it. I couldn't get over when I was making it all of the fantastic little bits of feedback. If you look right back, it's probably more than 5, 6 years ago, actually thinking about it, there was lots of people commented and yeah, give me some nice feedback. I was using my Nintendo 3DS actually to make this figure, and the reason I've talked about that on other videos is just because with the 3DS it allows you to 360 view the Pokemon from all the different angles, and using lovely different backgrounds by Vallejo, and getting those beautiful eyes on there was so important. I've never really been able to draw anime, but painting it and sculpting it is something that I've really tried to perfect just through my enjoyment of Pokemon really over the years. As you can see, Pikachu and Meowth in there, I thought there'd be good size comparisons. And for anybody that doesn't know about Eevee, so Eevee has, I think it's about 7 or 8 different evolutions, all based on the different stones, evolution, places that it can evolve. For example, Leafeon, you have to evolve Eevee in a jungle or in a forest. You've got Glaceon, where you have to evolve it near a big stone, a ice stone. And yeah, for me, this just captured my imagination. Now, into some of the details, just very, very briefly, I've actually used a beige, brown, and Iraqi sand colour by Vallejo. So here is the colours, as you can see, very, very similar to what's on here. I've also used it's got to be one of my favorite and probably most used colors. It is this lovely leather brown. And as you can see, it literally speaks for itself why I use these colors. Now, on to actually making this Eevee. I have an armature. I'm going to bring it for the next review when I review Jolteon. I use an armature wire base just to make sure it all stands. You can buy it. It's about 2 mil, 2.5 mil. And I make an overall shape of one of the evolutions, or maybe it's one of the other Pokemon, like just have a little think now of similar body types, say Cubone or Vulpix. And after I've done that, I try to make sure that fundamentally it is sound, it stands. So I always work on the body and the legs first. Cook the clay. I'm using Super Sculpey clay, which is one of the most versatile and best clays you can find. These are some of my sculpting tools. You can just get these off Amazon. Very, very good stainless steel set that you can buy literally right now. And then none other than Vallejo paints. The Vallejo paints and the range that they use are absolutely phenomenal. And I've been very, very happy with those over the years. They've done everything that I could possibly do. And if you look at this guy or girl sitting on your hand, absolutely brilliant and very, very sturdy. The one thing I would say with Super Sculpey clay is it's very, very hard and well wearing. Now, if I bring in this gloss paint here, this is what I always finish the eyes with. It's important whenever you're doing these Pokemon sculptures, I think, to get as much detail in there as possible. That's clay work, not line work and paint work after the fact. So everything from the mouth, the nose, the ears, the little hair all on here. This isn't all just painted on. This is actually me using my sculpting skills. Now, from Eevee, on to my next favourite, the most recent Pokemon. This is probably one of the oldest Pokemon. To my most recent Pokemon I made, Jolteon. Bam! Here is none other than Jolteon. Oh my god. This was a challenge to make. I think I was afraid to actually start sculpting this one before because it just seemed so advanced. All of the sharp edges, the perfect right angles and things. There's little imperfections. Of course, it's meant to be an animal or a creature. So I think that you'll probably forgive me. I forgive myself for any little intricacies that aren't quite perfect. And here is again Meowth and Pikachu, just so you can see size comparison. I've got better with the sizes over the years, as you'll see with Vaporeon in a minute. Vaporeon is a little bit on the bigger side. But yeah, I think same as with Meowth, same as with this version of Pikachu, these are iconic characters and they really, really do need an iconic and a lot of attention to detail, an iconic sort of eye and technique to try and perfect all the little details on their characters. I tried Pikachu many, many moons ago. I might even do a video review of it actually, and it's just a chunky mess. It looks horrible. So now I said that I would show you guys a little bit of an overview as to how I make my Pokemon figures. So here is an example. So this here is just a little armature using, I'm going to move Jolteon over a little bit, using a little bit of tin foil and armature wire. Now what I'll do is I'll make sure that this is absolutely sturdy. So I'll be super gluing this into position just to make sure it doesn't move. But as you can see, you kind of get the idea there. That is ultimately very, very similar, if not exactly the same as what I used to make this Jolteon. I use tin foil in the middle, and then I use the armature wire around the body just to make sure that it stands soundly. So I'll probably move this leg over a little bit to help it balance out. I need to super glue this one in place. That's why it keeps moving. But as you can see there, that is pretty much, not that, that is pretty much how I would create the body. Just made this very, very quickly for a Jolteon. Now you could get whatever position you want. You know, if you wanted something standing, maybe if you wanted it on standing with one paw down, like it was shaking hands, or putting its paw up, looking very, very cute. Maybe like Meowth either side, like that. So yeah, armature wire is fantastic. What I would do is the next step of using that and finalising it would be to use super glue to hold it all in place, and then slowly but surely start to use masking tape, which is really, really great when you're using clay to adhere to it around the edges. And on top of that, I would start to add the Super Sculpey clay. This is what the wire looks like for anyone that's interested, and I'll just use a pair of clippers, pliers, so forth, to get it to the right size length. Now, these are really, really cool electricity effects for anybody that hasn't seen or collected Marvel Legends over the years. These are absolutely fantastic effects that you can get for many different characters, such as Electro. Here we go. I'll put it across his body, actually. You can sort of stretch them out. They're made with sort of like a bendy plastic. So, yeah, if I was going to be displaying this, you know, looks pretty cool. And I can't remember where I got this one from. I think it might have been like a Thor or something. This one looks absolutely brilliant. So you could do this maybe like she's throwing a Thunderbolt attack at one of Team Rocket. You know, James has come in. Oh, hello. And yeah, absolutely love displaying this guy. Very, very beautiful figure. So happy with it. I used some really, really nice paints by Vallejo on this one. So I think it was Sun Yellow. And again, using the gloss varnish on the eyes, making sure I've done as much as possible with the clay work. So it's 3D. All these little 3D edges here were made and attached on using normal super sculpted clay. And then after it was cooked, because it was getting quite fragile, I used Milliput. And as you can see here is an example of what techniques I would use when I was doing it. Now, for feet, something, just a little tip that I found is just a nice little score. You can see it perfectly fits in those holes there. That pretty much does everything that you need. And I with this figure, firstly, I did the whole body with no spikes using the armature wire I just shown you. After that, it was then a case of doing this section and adding the rear spikes on. Then it was a case of doing the head and then adding the ears last. And then all these little small parts and sharp edges were done afterwards, just because, as an example, to get this as a nice hard edge, you're better off pushing against something that's cooked and hard rather than something that's soft. Otherwise, as soon as I do that, there's going to be a mark on this white section, and it's just not going to give that nice, beautiful finish that you would want for Pokemon that's in your collection. And here we go. Here is none other than Flareon. Oh, how beautiful does this guy look? Man, this has a lot of imperfections. It has a lot of things that I look at now and I kind of cringe about, but at the same time, overall, I think I've captured Flareon. Could it be better? Absolutely. Reflections on this guy are probably too much of a bright orange. There are little imperfections. You can see little pieces of damage there where it's moved house over the years. It has moved house with me 2 or 3 times. The orange I used for this was, I think it was Fire Orange by Vallejo. And again, I've used Iraqi Sand and Beige to get this lovely tail colour here. Now, if I could go back and start this again, I would probably use Procreate Putty. I've actually got it handy. I didn't know this even existed at the time. But yeah, this is Procreate Putty. Absolutely amazing stuff. Just mix 2 parts together, and then I would have been able to elasticate these little hairs on here. So you can see what I've done is, this was many, many years ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. My sculpting wasn't as good back then, so it's not as clean. You can see that there's a lot of little scratches and imperfections. Just this bit here, for example, this is excess clay that I haven't removed. I'll remove that now. And what I tend to do now is, when I score the clay to make all these little fire effects, I would use the Procreate Putty to then make lots and lots and lots of tiny little hairs that can come away and can also move, roll them out like little sausages, and then super glue them on and attaching them. Whereas with this, the imperfections are that I've done it in a big clump, kind of a bit lazy. But at the same time, I just didn't have the skill back then, which is okay. We're always improving year by year. And it's nostalgic for me to look at this now. But yeah, that's probably how I would do it again. I also get a brush now. So after I've done this kind of techniques, I still use this technique. It's just a lot more fine and delicate, as you can see maybe on Eevee and on Pikachu and Meowth. I've used, and even on, I just literally reviewed Jolteon. So on Jolteon as well, I would use the slightly different techniques that I've learned over the years to make sure there's sharper edges and smoother hair on here. You can see in here around the neck, it's looking a little bit scruffy and a lot of imperfection. So what I would do is now I'll get a brush, and I would very simply, I'm going to show you as an example. I'll use a brush like this, I'll dip it in water, and I would just keep brushing over and over and over again to remove all these little nodules and little scratch marks and make sure it's all smooth and flowing in the same direction. Now, I have done some things I'm really proud of. I've tried to use a fade there, a orange into yellow into the beigey sandy colour. But overall, I think the head is probably a little bit too far forward. It should be back closer to the body, and this fur should be coming more onto its back here, rather than I'm going to use this sculpting tool instead. So yeah, it should be coming back more here, and the head should probably start about here. Instead, it's too far forwards. However, in a collection, it still does look really cool. Let's just pick her up so you can have a look at all the different angles. Again, I used the armature wire here on this beautiful Pokemon. And will I make another one? Absolutely. Yeah, this isn't perfect for me. You can see the ear cracked off here when I moved house, and there's a lot of little details that I would like to get on, using the same technique with the eyes to paint, using a gloss varnish. And what I don't like about this one, just as a comparison to Jolteon, let's move the electric effects there. You can see with Jolteon, I have sunk the eyes into the head and then made them smooth them out, and I've used my sculpting skills to do that. Whereas with this, I've just stuck them on top, and they kind of looks like Jolteon on Flareon on acid a little bit. She's kind of got like these bulbous eyes, a bit like a spider, and that isn't what I envision of Flareon. So I am tempted. Let me know in the comment section below if I should just snap the head off and then resculpt all this and start again, and with the tail and stuff as well, or if you think I should just make a brand new one. I'm more than happy to do either. Now, I have pulled out a few, again, Marvel Legends effects. So there's a beautiful effect piece that comes with Phoenix here. So it's a fire effect. So whether or not you could fashion this so it's being blown out of her mouth. Let's have a look. Here we go. Or whether or not she's going to fire something again, maybe at Team Rocket. These fire effects look absolutely brilliant. I think this one was a Diamond Select fire effect. But yeah, use Flame Attack. I think they're really cool and nice little additions to any Pokemon display. Just before I finish the overview of Flareon, as you can see here, with Meowth and with Pikachu, two of my all-time favourite Pokemon sculpts. Finally, here we go, on to Vaporeon. And man, Vaporeon is very big. This is a lot more sleek, sort of fish-like, almost seal or dolphin-like physique. Very cool. Love the design. This actually I found really hard to get evolved from an Eevee into Vaporeon. Back on the old games, I've just really struggled to find the Water Stone. It's been such a long time. I'm sure if I played it now, it'd be very easy if I played it in 2024. But back in old 1999, I really did find it quite hard to complete all the evolutions. Now, many moons later, luckily, I've completed it a couple of times over. And very nostalgic getting to look at this Pokemon here in front of me. Now, Vaporeon, as mentioned before, it is a little bit too big. This is the first one that I ever made from all the evolutions. Definitely one of my favourites. Got this beautiful spike pattern all up the tail, going onto the back as well. I remember sculpting the body again first, and the tail, making sure that it's sat nice and flat, watching a YouTube tutorial on how to make it, and then attach the head on afterwards, after putting on this awesome looking collar. Now, with Jolteon, you might see that there is a lot more sort of defensive, electrified, sharp edges and nature to its physique and to the sculpt. Whereas with this one, it's a lot more sleek, smooth, and I've used a nice varnish gloss again all over it now to try and make it look a little bit more sort of wet, like it's been in the water. Maybe it's just come out to say hi, that sort of thing. Now, it is a fan favourite. And speaking of fan favourites, I've got another couple of awesome Pokemon, Ivysaur, Charmeleon, Wartortle, and Sandshrew, Poliwag, I think it is, or Poliwhirl, one of those, to show you at the end in comparison to all of these. But absolutely, with this Pokemon, a little bit too big. Would have been nice to be a little bit smaller to fit in a little bit nicer next to the likes of Flareon, Jolteon, and of course, the beautiful looking Eevee. Now, what would I change about this Pokemon? You can see here on the earpiece here that it has cracked, a little bit fragile. I wouldn't change that though. I'm happy with how it turned out. Very challenging sculpt and something I'm really proud of doing in my first year of sculpting back sort of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now, do you know what? Thinking about it, it's got to be about 7. I'd say it must be 7. Now, again, I've sculpted the eyes onto it, so I would have liked to have preferred to have sculpted those into the head. Eyes don't tend to sit on top of the head, so that's something that I would like to have done. And I also didn't have these tools back then, so making sure that all the little lines are smoother on the legs would have been a really, really important detail for me to get in. And if I just hold this, you can really, really feel it's a lot chunkier, it's a lot heavier. I did use a slightly cheaper clay, so you can see the finish isn't as good and as smooth as it is with Super Sculpey, as it is on some of the other versions. But nevertheless, very, very happy with it, and I think I've captured the essence of the water Pokemon type with this figure. Definitely, definitely one of my favourites. And again, with the Marvel Legends, I've just brought in a couple of little effects here. This is kind of like a bit like a water effect. And also this one, it looks a little bit more electric style, but could definitely put this, maybe, let's have a look here. Could put this on the side. Man, these are hard to attach. I should have probably paused the video and done this. Let's see, can I get it to stay on? Oh, no. But yeah, there we go. Really, really cool either way. Yay, got the water effects to work. Just wanted to film this and show you. Really, really does look cool. I'd highly recommend for anybody that collects Pokemon, get yourself some of these Marvel Legends effects. Very, very cool. Here we go, guys. Bringing this video to an end, my final reflections while I bring in some of the all-time classic Pokemon characters for you to have a look at. I'd probably rate these guys overall about 7 or an 8 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. I think the likes of Jolteon, I think the likes of Eevee are probably the most exceptional ones I've ever made. But looking back, there's a lot of nostalgia for some of these ones that have their little imperfections and aren't quite perfect. I don't think that any sculptor is truly happy with what they've made. I'd like to have put effects on there, lots of different like effects that are actually attached to the physical Pokemon. I think that'd look really, really cool. So I'm talking effects like these, lightning effects, and all these different things. I'd also like to make sure that people like Vaporeon are a little bit smaller and that they all scale really, really well together. But overall, it is the classic 151 Pokemon that I love most of all. They're must-have childhood favourites of mine. That being said, having these Pokemon in my collection in any form, whether or not it's perfect, man, that is my first ever Pokemon there. If you haven't seen that video, I've done a review on it when I made it many, many years ago. I wanted these in my collection. I wanted the nostalgia. My son plays this game and collects the cards now. And for me, it is a passion project, absolutely. So what's next for this channel? I've got lots more Pokemon. I've got lots more evolutions, including Umbreon coming very, very soon. I've got Marvel Legends Grizzly. I've got Malekith coming. I've got Predator figures. I've got DC Ventriloquist figures. Lots and lots of stuff coming very, very soon, hopefully, that should make you very happy, including the likes of Rambo and other characters. Butterfree. I've also got the full evolution with Metapod and Caterpie as well. So if you've liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or here on YouTube. And if you want any of these badass Pokemon in your collection, please feel free to drop me a message. I'm always taking commissions, and I can't wait to work on my next stuff and show you my next video. Woo! See you soon, guys. Adios.